Hello everyone, I am CA Gangadhar Reddy. If you are running a business, managing employees, or working of an HR or finance team, there is an important labor law you cannot afford to ignore. That is the Shops and Establishments Acts. Here, there is an interesting part. There is no single Shops and Establishment Act applicable uniformly across India. Registration, working hours, weekly offs, overtime, breaks, and other employee conditions can vary from state to state, and with the four labor codes becoming effective from November 2025, there is even more confusion about what actually changed. In this video, we will simplify the entire framework: who needs to register, how state-wise laws differs, how 8 hours and 10 hours working limits actually work, how 5-day and 6-day working is decided, who breaks the and how breaks and overtimes are trended, and how the shops and establishment framework interacts with labor new codes. And one of the important point, we will keep detailed earning leaves, casual leaves, and sick leaves provisions in the next video. We will discuss that in the separate state-wise establishment entitlement separately. So let's understand the Shops and Establishment Act from the basics with practical examples. So in this video we have covered all these basic registrations and all. So first of all, what is Shops and Establishment Act? In the Shops and Establishment Act, this is basically state-wise law. So there is no central state universal central state law. It is an state-wise act. So legally every state has different framework. So primarily not a single national statute. So each state has different state codes based on their state timings and requirements. So then generally state labor department will regulate this via local inspector and facilitator. What it covers actually, this act which covers who has to register, and what are the labor working hours, and how it will be the daily condition and weekly condition, and what are the intervals and overtime gaps and everything, and also what is who has to register for this, and what are the complications if you not register under the Shops and Establishment Act, and what is the leaves and holidays. This is very important part. So under this act we have to get what is the EL, what is the SL, and what is the CL casualties, and how we entitled for the next years and all. uh, there is a detailed class for it, so this I will handle in the next class, but here I will tell this under states and shops and establishment tax only we are getting these benefits. And then employees welfare, so how it wages are paying, and their appointment letters, and the safety and women laws and child labor acts under all these are handled under this act. So let's jump into the act. So basically, this is the constitutional foundation. How it is under the Article 246, there are several parliament and state laws across the list in the seventh schedule. They have implemented these laws. So every state has given their own Shops and Establishment Act accordingly. And this is the state list and union list, and also concurrent list. Concurrent list means it covers the major labor laws, but additionally if you follow any major labor laws as per the central government, you should follow shops and establishment also. So if you follow these rules, is doesn't doesn't tolerate you to not follow shops and establishment act. So you should follow concurrently, so the state can litigate subject to the moral conflict. So if your state has given 7 to 10 labor codes actually workings and all, say suppose 8 hours as per the central government, and also 48 hours a week. So even though if you follow this, you should follow your state establishment also. And then whom it is applicable, it is generally applicable to all business type, whether it is shop or commercial officers hotels, restaurants, whoever you are, your theaters, whole house, and clinics, and anything. It is covered under all business types. And also in the legal forms also, sole proprietors, partnerships, LLPs, private, public companies, and firms like CA advocates firms, CA firms are wherever applicable. And then modern sectors, IT enables, consultants, startups, everything also covered into the Shops and Establishments Acts. Generally, there could be limits. I will explain later. Lately they have introduced that work from home entities also covered in this. Say suppose a freelancer or somebody sitting in the home and doing some few business models are there also. So it doesn't automatically decide, but the state law checks whether that also covered under the work from home acts, also covered for the shops and establishment, has to check in the each state wise. Few states covered these activities also under the shops and establishment acts. So generally, if you are a retail shop, yes, you are covered. And if you are a CA or advocate or firm, you are covered. And if you have an IT and enabled services or company, obviously covered. And if you are a restaurant or hotel, most covered, because it is food safety is more important. So customers also involved. So obviously you are covered. And hospital or clinic usually covered, because most of the hospitals are covered under the lot of public involved here, right? So mostly covered, but generally few hospitals is set up by the government and all, that may be in the exemption list that I will discuss in the next slide. Then warehouse and godows covered, because most of the employees will work here. And consultant and professional service firms obviously covered. And then home based officer freelancer depends on the state. If the state gives the permission to cover that, the state inspector or state officer will handle that. And the educational institutions and schools often scope outside, and few states has covered this. So these coverage maybe depends on state by state. Broadly all these are covered in the most of the states. Few educational institutions and the hospitals as a few exemptions, but rest all are covered in each case. So this is the Telangana. And let's see the state wise now. So this, see, first is the Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. In Telangana, the registration is covered for every establishment. Even though sole proprietary, within 30 days you should register. But uh, if your working days are less than 10 hours, 10 employees, so you can have an exemption most of the provisions, but registration and core sections still apply. What are the core sections means, I will discuss in the next slides. But if you are an entity, you should register even though if it is less than 10,000. But most of the provisions can give exempted for the employees who are less than 10,000. Say suppose you have one establishment, if your employees is less than 10, for you in Telangana, few provisions will applicable from States and Establishment Act. But if you have more than 10 employees, you should cover all provisions of the act. But registration is compulsory for both cases. This is what they want to tell here. And the 10 hours provision also included on this date. 10 hours provision means generally 8 hours, most weekly 48 weekly hours. But they introduced 10 hours maximum day, but added 48 they added 48 hours provision. So even though if you work for 10 hours maximum, but your week cannot should increase 48 hours. And also women and night shift conditions also introduced by Telangana, and relaxations to most of the states. And also exempted for few provisions for employees, for entities who are less than 10 employees. So and also they introduced the gap, and what should be the gap for these 6 hours, and what is the maximum spread for 12 hours or 6 hours, and what is the quarterly timings and all. This is the Telangana Act summary. And then this is the, if you come to Andhra Pradesh, same as mandatory for all entities, but auto renewal is there. But here yearly you have to renew in Telangana. But in auto renewals were applicable for Andhra Pradesh. And then less than 20 employees here, they they took a provision for less than 10 employees, but here they took a provision for less than 10 employees to 20 employees. If your employees are less than 20, few sessions are not applicable for you, but more than 20, all act as applicable. But both cases registration is compulsory. And the working hours also they have introduced, like Telangana, what is the 10 hours working day, and how should we they applicable. For overtime also they have give separate calculation. Quarterly you should cover these capped overtime working hours and all. That depends on the entity and all. But here every sole proprietary and all registrations are completed, all establishments are mandatory to register. And in Maharashtra also, full registration for 20 plus non-manager employees, and less than 20 only online simple intimation is required. And working hours also they up to 10 hours per day they introduced. So these working hours I will give separate session and in these separate slides. Just you cap that few states will give 8 hours per day maximum. Few states have given 10 hours per day maximum, but most of the week, but central government is saying that 48 hours per week is the maximum timing hours. So this is how they framed. So few states introduced 10 hours per day, but central due to central act they restricted weekly hours as 48 only. So these you have to understand in a broader level. And then in Karnataka also, no minimum employees threshold is there. Every entity is required. There is no, the act is completely applicable for single employee also. So you don't have relaxations in Karnataka. In Tamil Nadu, 10 plus employees is full registration is required. If you are less than 10 employees, then simply online intimation is required. The working hours is still working on the 8 hours basis only, but Bangalore is working on 9 hours basis only because Karnataka. And then this is the state across all major states under Telangana. There is no even zero you have to applicable. This you can take a screenshot for your future reference. What are the timelines for each state to get a registration? Uh, Tamil Nadu gave the 10 months time, 6 months time to get the registration. The validity is also 5 years. But in Telangana, year to year you have to renew. But auto renewal is applicable only in Andhra Pradesh. But in few states have given limit also. On their employees choice you can uh, fix the years, how many years you should renew that and all. And then most of the entries are covered. In Karnataka they have covered, there is no minimum threshold and all. Karnataka should follow every entire act will applicable to all establishment. But here few sections for Telangana, if you are less than 10 or less than 20, based on the number of the count, you can follow few sections in the act. Rest all are same. Say suppose few states, if your count is less than the threshold limit, if you will follow few section in the act. But if you increase that number, say suppose in Telangana more than 10 and in the Andhra Pradesh more than 10, entire act will applicable to you, like that. So this is the list and all. And then West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan also gave act applicable to entire all establishment. And this is the state-wise screenshot you can take it for your future reference. And also central government or state government, which act it is. Actually it is operated by the state, so it is a state government act. Each state has separate act, their own act for their shops and establishment, and the station is governed by the state only. And there is threshold limits and fees working, and each state has different working conditions, working hours and everything. And states actively amends these laws. So always confirm current law before filing if you are taking any decisions and all. And there is no single. I already told you this is a state. In central government, they have fall under the labor laws has to follow as per the because central has to given some labor course, right? That course has to follow. Even though if you haven't state law separately, you should follow this act. So here, see in stage one, central will provide few labor codes to welfare of the labor conditions, says about union teams, and then registrations, national registration, like that, warehouses and all. But even while following the central conditions, you should follow shops and establishment acts separately. So you should not uh, overcome one by using another. Say suppose if you follow central government, there is no class to don't follow state acts also. So the state codes for labors is particularly important than central, because central, most of the central cases applicable to few states only, few organizations only, the turnovers and all. So generally state central will take care of the agencies access, suppose PF Act, ESI, and then these conditions. So apart from that, states has to check their working hours and attendance regulation and leaves and everything covered in the central. So most of the labor codes repeatedly applicable in state and central, say suppose, but few labor welfare conditions applicable from central state laws also, that is separate applicability, and this is separate applicability. So both has to follow as a entity organization. So generally these entities are exempted under the registration for for shops and establishments acts. So the central and state government offices or departments are exempted from the registration, and also reserve banks and similar statutory bodies are exempted. Local authorities like municipal corporations or panchayats, not states and establishments. These are the separate acts, and establishment covers under the statutory definition is not simply factories. So establishment means covered entire establishments, not only factories or framework is applicable. And then agriculture, agriculture operations or related activities are not required to register. And domestic workers, person employed in a private household, is not applicable for shops and establishment act. So majorly these are the exemptions given by the states. And what are the parameters while they are taking the decision? Location and applicable law. Based on which state if you are located, you should applicable on the that particular state definitions. And the commercial activity test. They suppose if you does the premises buy or sell goods or render the services or trade the business. Say suppose if you took an organization and sell the your goods from here or provide your services from here or do the your trading from here, then you applicable in that particular state. And also count also considered in the different states and the this and the size and all, and the timelines also given in separately, generally 30 to 90 days. Only one state give the 6 months time, that is Tamil Nadu. And then proof of premises, you should do a ownership or lease agreement. Based on this they can provide the registration. This is the registration requirement, and this is the registration process. It is like you should go to the portal and create an application, upload the few documents and address proof, ID proof and ownership proof and all. And then you pay the fees. There will be nominal fee, there's about 10 to 20K is applicable here, INR. And then you will get the certificate, and this is a digital certificate you can renew based on the expiry date. most of the most of the cases are yearly. Few states, only one state AP is auto renewal. And then Karnataka is given for 5 years registration, and few states given for 5 years option also. And then these are the generally documents they require: the PAN of the entity, address proof of the entity, certificate, list of the employees, Aadhaar number, and the proof of the ownership, GST registration if any, passport size photos as required. So these are the minimum basic documents they ask for registration. And then once you applicable under this act, what you need to follow? You need to follow attendance register. You should maintain all these records daily. The attendance register has to record, and you should maintain leave register also. Leave availed and balance. What is the applicable for states laws? And you also register wage laws, the wages you paid and deductions you give, and dates, and also each employee count and all. And also overtime register. Wow, extra hours worked and overtime compensation paid and all. And also inspection register, observations for the labor inspectors and that also you have to register. So these are the basic documents required to maintain by the establishments under this act. So what are the employer obligations? Say suppose if you have an entity and you register under this act, what are your obligation? First you should give the formal appointment letters to the every employee, and then you observe their weekly or daily hours and the limits, and provide weekly rest day, and honor notified public holidays, and also grant leave entitlements as per the prescribed applicable state law. So suppose in your state, if you are able to get EL based on that conditions, you should give that earned leaves and you should entitle that cash to the employees. And also you should ensure women employees safety and post compliances in every state, and display statutory notices, hours and wage rates and everything you should display in your notice body. If you change any, you should update on timely manner. This is the obligations of the employer. And then what is the penalties? Generally, if you fail to register, there should be fine and escalations to for default. And then the false records and entire or entities or registrations, the higher fines are will applicable here. And if you fail to maintain the statutory registers, fines can trigger one working hours, and also this could be may escalate to the legal cost, and continuing default will do a per day penalties also applicable. So these are the penalties. These are the penalties for labor courts who are not able to maintain proper records or maintain proper explanations. And then what is the business implications for skipping the registrations? There will be legal exposure. Say suppose uh, basically you should get the fines, prosecutions of the owner, and there will be closure of the establishment also will happen if you not follow the act, or if you not, if you skipping the any act. And then may create it difficult to open bank account and trade licenses and KYC documents, and they will freeze your bank account also. And then a certificate is often treated to fundamental business document to vary the business identity. You loss of the legitimacy, so you can lose the your registrations. And also your weaker documentary for labor codes will uh, affect the employees of new joinees. So if labor code has given complaint in this, no, many new joiners will assume that they don't take care of the labor, so facilities is not available in that entity. Maybe your churn rate will increase, and your new employees not come to your entity. That would be use business as for corporates. And then I already explained that central has given already few minimum course and all. So that is the separate requirement for more apart from this shops and establishment act. And then under the shops and establishment act you should follow specific state labor codes. Apart from that, there is a central labor codes also, code wages and the social security and the industrial relationships, and also health and work conditions. All these central codes also has to follow by the corporates and others. And what is this 8 hours versus 10 hours actual conditions, and how it has been changed? Generally, if your maximum time is 8 hours, you need to work 6 days to complete this 48 hours conditions. So this is how they work out for the 48 hours they fulfill. But if you do only 5 days week, so the shorter week is cover here. So that is why few states introduce 10 day per maximum. So in that case, to cover the 48 days, you can increase your days. Say suppose few software companies work for 5 days only. In that case, if they work only 8 hours per day, their weekly limit will not satisfy. So companies may lose it. That is why they introduce 10 hours a day. So if you have 10 hours per day, you can have 50 hours in a week, but you should not exceed 48 hours in a day. So how this day will count? This 10 hours daily will count uh, based on the specific time gaps and also. So daily limit does not equal to weekly limit. Weekly limit does not equal to overtime limit. There is separate overtime conditions, and there is separate weekly conditions, and there is separate daily conditions for each state separately. And then who decides the 5 day or work day conditions? So generally employer will decide either a 5 day or 6 day. What are the shift timings? What are the employee roster? And what are the distribution of weekly hours? How do we distribute? Few entities they work for one Saturday and they didn't work for another Saturday. So because to fulfill these 48 hours or weekly conditions or quarterly conditions, they frame like this. And then law can determine only maximum days per week, daily working hours and weekly working hours, and the rest day and the holidays period, and rest intervals, and spread over the times and overtime limits. This only covers the law. So law doesn't say you have to follow or 5 day or 6 day. This purely depend by the employer only. How you plan based on the which state he incorporated, you should do the specific call based on the state which he registered or which he operates. So that is how a company can operate 7 days a week while individual employees receive their statutory weekly day off roster the where permitted. So few companies can do 7 days week also, but this is a daily nature business. But the week offs will come. The rotation. See, this is about the customer call or somewhere they will work on 24 hours basis, but week offs will I mean they'll give separate week offs, and the shift work basis are applicable, so that those working time conditions are different. And then how to calculate these working hours? As I told you, even though if they told 9 to 6 if it's 9 hours, but there is a less statutory applicable exclusions are there. Post that only they will do the 8 hours they will take calculation for this only, not this. Say suppose 48 means 9 into 6 days 54 hours. So they don't consider 9 to calculate this 48 hours. They consider only networking time, not on the rest time. So these are the they will treat the office lunch, rest intervals, and tea breaks, spread over time, and overtime depends, and all these will consider while calculating this 8 hours or 6 hours calculation. And then few states, especially Haryana and Punjab, are are modernizing these laws. Say suppose if they are below 20 employees, online simple intimation is required, and if there are revising their working hours based on the uh, establishments and state establishment. So few states changing as per the central course and all. Generally, a few questions will ask for regularly. Is is registration compulsory for just one employee? Most of the states, yes. Even though if you have one employee, you should register. These are the frequently asked questions. And is work from home setup is covered? Not automatically. You have to check the state law separately. And is the registration entity a substitute for shops and establishment? No. Even though if you have a registration, you should separately enter this separately take the registration. Is LLP covered like an company? Yes, it has covered. Is the renewal required after initial registration? In most of the states, yes. You should renew every renewal period. Can the registration is cancelled at the closure of the establishment? You can cancel. And then what are the leave entitlements, and what are the EL and public leaves and CEL or casual public holidays, week offs, leave allocation and enhancement. All this will discuss in the next video. Next video, we will discuss how the state or central government or the company can decide this 12 days EL or 6 days EL or SL and CL. How should they decide? And all we will discuss in the separate video in a next video in detailed manner. What we should take away from this? So primarily this is a state act. There is a wide net coverage here. Most of the entities has covered. Registration is promptly taken because they didn't give 30 days, more than 30 days time, and they will cover daily wages, weekly wages, monthly wages, and codes now effective. All labor codes are effective. Stay current because it is every state has given different state laws. You should stay as per these laws. So this is so every presentation, every states and establishment, shops and establishment has separate their own state acts. So accordingly, you should check each state act based on the registration. So I hope you understand this video, and please subscribe our channel for more videos like this, and share your share and subscribe. Your like and share option is if you feel we are putting efforts to introduce you to understand these concepts easy manner, please subscribe our channel and share to your friends whoever required. Thank you.